Play with me.
Spike's eyes shot open. Normally he wasn't easy to wake up, but the voice made a shiver run down his spine, and he didn't like it in the slightest. Hello? Anybody there? He stuttered, but there was no answer. The tranquility was eerie, and it rained with an iron fist. Eventually, he shrugged it off as him hearing things or a dream. He leant over, and slowly, his eyes started to close again.
Play with me.
Spike shot up in a sitting position. He looked around for a few minutes before he got out of bed and retrieved a flashlight. With a click, the room was illuminated by a ray of light. He moved around his room, pointing the flashlight in every direction he could think of. Eventually, he gave up and put the flashlight beside his bed and lied back down. His eyes started to slowly close again.
Play with me.
Spike jumped up and took the flashlight. He switched it on, and there, just by the door, he saw something. He carefully walked over to it. After a few minutes of slow walking and hesitation, he reached the door, and he could clearly see what the figure was. It was Twilight's Smarty Pants doll. He picked it up and looked at it for a few moments. Was this a prank? He opened his doors and looked down the empty hallways.
Twilight, is this a joke?
He shouted. After a few moments, he heard a sound that sounded like a filly giggling coming from his room. He made a 90-degree turn and looked into his room, but saw nothing. He decided to put the doll outside his room and close the doors quickly, locking them for good measure. He walked back over to his bed and checked the clock. It was 3:12 a.m. He switched off his flashlight and climbed into the bed, but before he could even lay his head on the pillow, a very loud banging sound started to come from his door. He was so surprised that he had lost his footing and fell onto the floor. He picked up the flashlight faster than Rainbow Dash could fly and pointed it at the door frantically. The banging continued and did not stop. He walked up to the door and unlocked it, silencing whatever was banging on the door. He slowly opened the door, but saw nothing. Nothing but the empty hallways. The doll was gone, and nothing out of the ordinary could either be seen or heard. He closed the door again and locked it. Slowly, he walked back to his bed and lay down on it. Nothing stopped him from falling asleep this time. Only a few moments later, he fell asleep. Spike's dream that night was strange. He was in a room that was painted white and had puppets of all kinds hanging from the ceiling. They weren't doing anything. Their eyes were closed and they were hanging still. He walked past them carefully and came to a door, but before he could even reach for it, a marionette that looked like Rarity dropped from the ceiling in front of him.
Go in there, and I promise that you'll learn what fear truly is. You should go through the door there.
The puppet said as the threads made it point down a hallway that wasn't there before. Okay. Thanks. Spike answered. He walked down the hallway and opened the door at the end. He found himself in another room filled with puppets, though this room was painted pink. He reached the door at the end and a puppet dropped down in front. This time, it looked like Pinkie Pie.
Wrong door. The correct door is there,
the puppet said and pointed at the floor. Spike looked down and found himself standing on a door that definitely wasn't there before. He got off of it and opened it, revealing a blue room. He was hesitant, but eventually jumped down. He looked around for a bit.
Is it a Rainbow Dash puppet this time?
He asked himself.
That's correct,
a voice said behind him. He turned around and came face to face with a Rainbow Dash puppet.
The door is there,
the puppet said and pointed behind Spike. Spike turned, and to his surprise, a door stood before him. He went through the door and into an orange room.
You can come out, Applejack puppet,
Spike said out loud.
Fiddlesticks,
an Applejack puppet said as it lowered from the ceiling.
Which is the right door this time?
Spike asked.
Behind you, you'll see two doors. It's the one on the right,
the puppet said and disappeared. Spike walked up to the doors and walked through the right one. It led into a yellow room.
Is it okay if I give you directions? If you want to, that is,
a Fluttershy puppet said behind him.
That's okay. Where do I go?
Spike asked. The puppet shook as it lifted a hoof and pointed at a door that he would have to crouch through. Spike nodded a thanks and crawled through the door into a lavender room. 3 doors were at the other end and all had writing on them. The one on the left had "Not Scary" written on it. The middle one had "Scary" written on it, and the one on the right had "Very Scary" written on it. A puppet that looked like Twilight dropped from the ceiling and looked at him with relief.
Oh, thanks, Celestia! You made it here!
It said as it petted Spike on the head.
Listen carefully. 2 of those doors are bad, and 1 is good. It's the middle one. Don't take one of the others.
Spike listened and approached the middle door.
Play with me.
But when he reached it, he began hearing the voice that had haunted him before he fell asleep. This was a trick. The first 5 ones were meant to fool him into trusting the puppets, and then trick him on the last one.
No, you're not fooling me. I'm taking the not scary one,
he said and opened the not scary door.
Spike, no!
The Twilight puppet shouted as he closed the door behind him. Spike found himself in a room that was painted black with candles illuminating it, and all the puppets that were hanging there were looking at him with wide open eyes. He pushed through them and reached the door, but as he went to open the door, it started to shift. It transformed into a demonic-looking version of the Smarty Pants doll's face. All the puppets in the room erupted into laughter as the demonic face opened its mouth and chomped down on him with haste. Everything turned black. The rays of sunlight shined through Spike's window and lightly touched his eyes. He jolted awake to see everything blurred. He groaned and slowly put his head back on his pillow. He turned around in bed to face the other direction, but something was blocking his view. His eyes adjusted and saw what it was. It was the Smarty Pants doll.
Play with me.
Spike screamed.